Welcome to Taiwan Talks. I'm Betty Chen. Just recently, U.S. President Donald Trump announced the so-called reciprocal tariffs. Many affected countries are facing rising tensions and greater pressure, especially Taiwan, which is also facing greater international attention because of TSMC. How can smaller players navigate this complicated world? And how can Taiwan find its way out for its diplomacy? Today, we are joined by two guests. Please allow me to introduce Mr. Charles Wu, National Chengchi University Department of Diplomacy Professor and Chair, and Marcin Jerzewski, European Value Center for Security Policy, Taiwan Office Head. A warm welcome to both of you on the show.
Hi, Betty.
Thank you. So my first question will go to Marcin. You have stayed in Taiwan for many years. So from an objective perspective, how do you see Taiwan in terms of its diplomatic approach? Should we adopt a tougher stance or should we adopt a more flexible and diversified approach?
I believe that the key word in understanding Taiwan's diplomatic strategy is agility. Having been excluded from formal institutions of the liberal international system for many years, Taiwan had to demonstrate a great deal of, indeed, agility and flexibility in reaching out to external partners, also through proxies and non-traditional diplomatic actors such as its legislature, subnational governments, non-governmental organizations, and so on. In response to tariffs, Taiwan is indeed in a tough position given the importance of the informal alliance between the United States and Taiwan and the perception of U.S. security guarantees for Taiwan. However, I believe that precisely through utilizing these non-traditional channels, an agreement can be reached. One particular development that I find very encouraging is the decision of the Taiwanese Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Agriculture to start a new international agriculture working group that is planning on sending a delegation to the United States later this year, also to discuss increased trade exchanges in this sector, which I believe might directly benefit red states to which the Trump administration is paying particular attention.
Thank you, Marcin. Indeed, Taiwan has been facing great difficulties in terms of our diplomatic situation. Professor Wu, you have been training the top diplomats from Taiwan at National Chengchi University. So how would you describe Taiwan's diplomatic situation to your students? Would you say that Taiwan is facing great danger, or do you think that these are not immediate concerns that the students should be worried about?
Yeah, Betty, our department is cultivating our diplomats for Taiwan for decades.
Yes.
It's already moving to 95 years right now.
Wow.
Yeah, but as we're facing a more intensive close relations and also more dangerous Sino-U.S. competitions, our diplomat needs to see the very true fact is we are facing a more we call Tom's Hobbs called under anarchic structures. There are more coming potential security dilemmas and probably potential military conflicts happening in the future. So I encourage my students how to mitigate the risk is very important. As we know, we used to view United States as ironclad allies during the Biden administrations. So we view we are like-minded states. However, when Trump got into powers, everything changed. Trump used more interest-based and talking about more deal makers styles. So this is what we need to see is how can we have a very good trade and also tariff relationship with the United States is very important. We probably need to switch from the ideal base to an interest base and how to make what we call interest based theories to our diplomatic strategies is very important. And I always tell my students we used to pro United States and counter against China. However, we also need to think about how can maintain a hedging strategy, which is you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. Probably is right now we need to think about that.
Talking about the importance of having a hedging strategy, indeed, over the past few years, we can see that Taiwan is definitely pro-U.S. and anti-China in terms of you can say like our choices, but things have changed now. So in your opinion, Professor, what would be the most important relationship? Is it U.S. Taiwan relationship, or should Taiwan be changing our focus to improving cross-strait ties?
Yeah, during my administrations, we use diplomatic truths, and also China might want to use a more pro-China strategies. But at the time, we can see it's different scenario because United States and China, they are engaging. United States want to engage China into the world systems. But after the Obama administration, also Biden administrations, and Trump 1.0, we can see the whole international structure changed. The two, we call it the great powers, they view each other as not only a competitor, but more kind of rivalries. So this is very important thing is during the Taiwan administration, we try to use more hawkish attitudes against China and pro-United States. But like what I say right now, Trump got into power and he don't pay attention to ideas, or we call it night-minded. Everything he want to use, we call the bargains, negotiations. And this creates a huge impact to our diplomatic strategies and also our situation right now. Also, Trump showing a more uncertain attitudes and also his foreign policies. These not only focus on targets on the cross-strait relations, he targets on all countries in the world. So how can we really understand American society, especially how can we really understand or learn the Americans' conservative factions? It's very important for Taiwanese peoples. So I also teach my students, right now we are not only learn international relations, we also learn the domestic politics in the United States. What's their conservative people thinking about? Why they are, got angry against those DEIs, also Democrats. This is what we need to know.
Definitely, the world has become even more complicated ever since President Trump resumed his power. As we have discussed just recently, President Trump has announced the so-called reciprocal tariffs. In your opinion, Marcin, what kind of impact will it have on Taiwan?
Most importantly, we need to understand the impact of these tariffs on domestic situation in the United States. So here I second Professor's point about the importance of understanding the local political context. The biggest losers in this war utilizing tariffs that are not reciprocal in any other way than name is the American public. When it comes to the impact on Taiwan, of course, we are already seeing that the government and Premier Zhou are negotiating mechanisms to offset the impact for industries that will be most affected, also to offset the impact on the stock market that has direct implications for savings and investment plans of the Taiwanese general public. However, I believe that particularly under President Tsai's presidency, we have seen Taiwan embrace more holistic economic security strategy. And the keyword in Taiwan's economic security strategy has been diversification. So I believe that when trying to understand Taiwan's efforts to engage with the world in both political and economic dimensions, we should think outside of the binary framework of either being closer with Washington or closer with Beijing and look at other partners. Of course, in the context of relations between Taiwan and Europe, we have seen a lot of progress, and also the new southbound policy that targets 6 countries in South Asia, 10 ASEAN member states, and Australia, Aotearoa, and New Zealand became a flagship foreign policy instrument, but also economic policy instrument for Taiwan. Therefore, I believe that Taiwan, in light of these not really reciprocal tariffs, needs to double down on diversification as a key for its engagement.
I think what you said about diversification is actually in line with what Professor Wu said about don't put all of your eggs in the same basket.
Certainly.
We have talked about the importance of TSMC while the world has been watching Taiwan, and especially just recently, TSMC has been kind of pushed to increase its investment in the United States, and now in the past it was 100 billion, and now it's up to additional 200 billion US dollars. In the past, we say that semiconductor is seen as a silicon shield for Taiwan. Do you think that given the current situation and the great pressure from Trump and from the U.S. administration, do you think that we can still have enough leverage when negotiating with Washington? Marcin?
I believe that it's important to go back to this concept of diversification. Diversification shouldn't only imply the choice of trade partners and political partners. Diversification also needs to imply the structure of economic interaction, both in terms of trade and investment. And it will be increasingly important for Taiwan to identify other sectors of the economy through which Taiwan can contribute to the well-being and progress of its partners outside of only semiconductors, just to enhance its own stability and security. Circling back to my earlier point about agriculture, I believe that there's a lot of potential for Taiwan to really position itself as one of the global leaders in so-called agriculture 4.0 or smart agriculture solutions. at the nexus of its rich legacy of agricultural production domestically and its prowess in ICT, including semiconductors, but not only. Taiwan has really emerged as a leader in those technologies. For instance, use of UAVs for agricultural production, use of AI for agricultural production, and other solutions that are increasingly important to food producers around the world in light of the climate crisis. However, as of now, the outreach, supported, for instance, through the recent establishment of the interministerial working group, has been focused mainly on Southeast Asia. And there is a lot of underappreciated potential in that direction, for example, in cooperation with Europe, where these countries with affluent, resource-rich agricultural sectors are suffering consequences of these global processes like climate crisis, for instance, desertification. So this is one area where Taiwan really can help by sharing its technologies that are not just semiconductors.
Very well said. So in addition to semiconductor, actually, there are still a lot of different areas that we can show our own strength and our capability. But still, I would like to turn our focus back to semiconductor. Professor Wu, in this wave of the reciprocal tariffs, it seems that semiconductor is exempted from this list. How do you see the future of semiconductor industry as a whole?
We know this time the tariff is 32% plus 10. Actually, Trump announced about 42% on our all different kind of industries, not only semiconductors. This create a huge impact to Taiwan because some economists estimated probably our GDP will drop to 2%. And also the CPI, our consumer product index, will go about 2.5. This will create an inflation and also economic downturn for Taiwanese societies. And a lot of our domestic economic composition is not semiconductors. We are focused on also the traditional manufacturers. About 30% is traditional manufacturers, including machines and also agricultures when we export those kind of things to the United States. So this is why the government right now they need to be quick and nervous, want to get back to the negotiation table with the United States. However, like what you mentioned, the semiconductor probably will be next targets by Trump administration because by the WTO regulations, they don't put the tariffs on the semiconductors. However, Trump doesn't care about this. He wants to get money back. This is why when we, like what I mentioned during the Taiwan administrations, we want to build what we call the chip alliances, and also with Biden. But Trump, he doesn't want that. What Biden mentioned, Trump don't want anything about this. Liberal values, alliances, chip alliances. He doesn't want that. He want what? He want we call American first, the white supremacies, megas, which he want to move all the production line back to the United States. So this is what we need to be very, very careful is whether we can maintain our we call the Silicon Shield, put the base in Taiwan, and also R&D in Taiwan. You can build more factories of the fabs in the United States for sure, or in other words. However, don't put all the eggs in one basket. It's very important. So hedging strategy not only in security, but hedging also can be on the economic strategy too.
Mm-hmm. Talking about the importance of hedging, we understand that Taiwan, given our very difficult diplomatic situation, currently now only 12 countries in the world officially recognize the Republic of China, Taiwan as an official ally. However, our diplomatic, or you can say our relationship building, is not limited to just these countries, right? So over the years, we have seen different kind of diplomatic situations. For example, adopted by the Tsai administration, they have the steadfast diplomacy. In the Ma administration, they have the viable diplomacy. So moving forward in the Lai administration, do you think that we should focus more on, say, technology diplomacy or economic diplomacy? What kind of approach should we adopt, Professor?
Yeah, like when I teach Taiwanese students, we cannot use the traditional security issues for our diplomatic lessons. We also need to focus on non-traditional diplomacies or strategies. For example, sustainable developments, SDGs. We call the health assistance. For example, our mass diplomacy, I think is really workable. Also, we need to target on different countries in war because right now we only have 12 allies, which I think is very close to the red lines. Because people say, why 12? And why we need to maintain those 12? So this creates a huge lesson for us is how can we really go to the international society to promote Taiwanese advantage. I think technology is one thing. Food and also agriculture is also our another advantages, and also our high kind of human qualities and our Taiwanese culture. I think it's very important for us to promote this island to the international world.
So, Marcin, what would be your suggestion? You talk about the importance of agriculture that can play to advance our diplomatic approach. Any other suggestions?
I believe that one of the biggest issues that Taiwan is facing when trying to project that it is capable of being a force for good in the global community is branding. And it might sound very cynical, but actually other actors such as China, or even those like-minded actors like Japan, that has been an extremely important provider of ODA, official developmental assistance, across the Indo-Pacific region, have done a very solid job consolidating their brand and making sure that the initiatives that they launch are very visible. Taiwan has an extremely laudable history of providing technical assistance, for example, which is in direct response to international frameworks such as UN Sustainable Development Goals. At the same time, these projects are often invisible, and we see it across initiatives launched in the Pacific Island countries, for example. Taiwan has been an extremely important provider of technical assistance in agriculture in places like Papua New Guinea and Fiji, but the ICDF farms have historically often been placed farther away from capitals, therefore yielding only limited results for Taiwan in terms of branding and visibility and perception of Taiwan as a reliable donor. That's why it's extremely important that campaign slogans such as Taiwan Can Help are implemented very conspicuously and very consistently. So at the end of the day, in the era of social media and short attention spans, it's important that the message of Taiwan as a force for good, a source of goodwill, is loud and clear, but also short and sweet, so that it can be easily internalized by the intended publics.
So definitely we can not only adhere to the traditional way of thinking about what diplomacy was, but now we have to be thinking outside of the box to use the non-traditional, non-conventional ways. So my next question will go to you, Professor. Taiwan has been trying to join regional trade agreements, for example, CPTPP or IPEF. However, because of the pressure from the other side of the Taiwan Strait, we have seen great blockade, or you can say great pushback in terms of in efforts for international participation. So how can Taiwan break away from these obstacles?
I mean, joining CPTPP or RCEP is an old topic. We debated this one for a long time.
Yes.
My view is when you join CPTPP, it depends on how Japan and the United States, their ideas about that prior to Trump administrations.
Now things are totally different, right?
Right now, we don't need to think about United States because my idea is the regional integration. They will try to speed up the regional integrations, but they will keep United States out because United States want to put tariffs on everybody's. And when we talk about regional integrations, they are mentioned about no tariffs or reduce the tariffs to zero. So, but like I say, RCEP, we also talk about want to join RCEP, but it depends on China. China was the kicking engine in the RCEP. So likewise, I say, if we cannot join RCEP, neither or CPTPP, we are looking to the IPEF during the Biden administrations. But IPEF was Biden's baby. So after Biden's, I don't think Trump wanted IPEF. So IPEF will be no more. This is one very important question is we need to look into future about the regional integrations, the trade integrations. My idea is the regional integration will still keep going on because all the countries don't want to do trade. All the countries want to make money. If they cannot sell goods to the United States, they will try to probably find a second way out, a third way out.
Definitely, just like what you said, diversification, right?
Diversifications. So RCEP will be more strengthened within their members. TPP members will strengthen within them. How about Taiwan? We used to view the United States as our very important trading partners. However, now everything 180 degrees changed. We're facing a huge hegemonic pressures from the United States. So this is what I always say, when you try to put all the eggs in one basket, you're facing the risk. You need to do the risk first. So right now we can do this first, negotiation with the Trump administrations. Second, we try to speed up our domestic consumptions. And also we need to find other the trade partners in the world, help our domestic manufacturers to find a way out.
So In March, the G7 foreign ministers issued a joint statement supporting Taiwan's meaningful participation in international organizations and also condemned China for its sending submarines and sending aircraft circulating the Taiwan Strait. And notably, in the statement, it omitted any references to the One China policy. So, do you think that shows tangible significance or shows tangible support from these ministers from the G7 countries for Taiwan? Marcin.
I think that it still remains to be seen what the actual significance of that statement is. Of course, when it comes to Taiwan, linguistic or rhetorical nuance is always extremely important. Also, because of Taiwan's own quest to be recognized by the global community, as well as China's efforts to distort narratives around Taiwan. That being said, the conversation about One China policies and One China principles is extremely loaded in light of China's discourse power and also efforts towards legal warfare as one of its three warfares. And I just believe that the distinction between One China policies and One China principle is often a source of confusion in policy debates. And if anything, I might see this change in how the G7 statement was phrased into a shift from focusing so much on symbolic nuance to more substantive action. But whether this action is undertaken still remains to be seen.
So going back to what you said earlier, Professor Wu, Taiwan over the years has been trying to join international organizations in a meaningful way. We talk about CPTPP or RCEP or these trade mechanism not working, IPEF not working. Any other organizations or mechanism you think that can be viable for Taiwan? Maybe Interpol or some other organizations? Any suggestions?
It's remind me during the Manager administrations when the cross-strait relations was not intensive. And also, Ma adopted the diplomatic truce. We were the observer for ICAO and also WHO, which I think create huge help and assistance for Taiwanese international reputations. However, as the cross-strait is going down, we cannot join them anymore. But like what I say, those two international organizations, they are very important. They are functionals. And they also, try to bring more experts into these kind of international organizations. They are not diplomats only, politicians only. This is very related to what we in IR theory says, functionalist. So probably in the future, we need to focus on those international organizations, which they are using the experts, medical doctors, transportation experts, those kind of international organizations, which is probably give us more assistance. Okay, not any kind of international organizations dominated by politicians, because politicians, they play around politics within the international organizations, including the the United Nations. United Nations is a very important, big power playground, and we always want to join, like try to break into United Nations, which when you play politics in a very political organizations, you are facing a lot of resistance. So like I say, how can we use a more non-traditional ideologies, using more flexible foreign policy strategies to help Taiwan to get back to the international society? I think still we need a lot of research and work. Yeah.
Marcin, what's your suggestion?
I believe that these international fora that Professor has already mentioned, like WHO, ICAO, Interpol, are important channels for Taiwan to manifest its role as a reliable partner in issues that pertain to the effective distribution and provision of global public goods. However, I indeed agree that participation of Taiwan in fora that focus more on technical cooperation can be a very viable way for Taiwan to demonstrate its expertise. For instance, now also in light of the climate crisis, the whole world is facing growing pressure from extreme weather phenomena, which also exacerbates the risk of climate-induced natural disasters. As an earthquake-prone island located in the Pacific Ring of Fire and also experiencing typhoons, Taiwan can really showcase its expertise in humanitarian assistance and disaster response, for example. And that has already proven to be an effective way for Taiwan to engage with partners even those that are trying to create a more amicable stance towards China, like Turkey under Erdogan's rule. And additionally, we should remember that Taiwan, as an Austronesian place, is extremely rich in traditional indigenous knowledge. And around the world, whether we talk about Northern Europe and the traditional Sami lands of Scandinavia, or the Pacific Islands with traditional Melanesian knowledge, traditional indigenous knowledge is extensively being revived to find local specific solutions to crisis caused by climate change. So this is yet another area where Taiwan can participate and also empower the Austronesian communities that are really the true owners of this land.
Marcin talked about the important role that culture or maybe the soft power can play in our diplomatic approach. So, Professor Wu, do you think that Taiwan has any soft power assets that it can take advantage of in promoting Taiwan's global visibility?
Yeah, I think we can use our advantage in soft power and also sharp power. I'm talking about soft power first. Our soft power is very important. For example, our culture. Taiwan, we have a long history related to the Chinese culture and also our hybrid cultures in food, in cultures, in also our local cultures. This is what we can promote to international societies and also technologies. And I think another very important is our right now we are learning how to fit to the international society about the climate change issues. I think now we have a lot of schools open courses about the climate change. They try to attend more international conferences on climate change. They teach students how to learn some subjects, research topics on climate change, and they can present papers in those international conferences. And our governments or our kind of private sectors, they also try to bring this kind of climate change issues to not only domestic learning situation, but they also try to bring more international visitors to Taiwan to let them know our ideas on the climate change issues. So I think this is, soft powers is what we can use, and sharp power is technology. I think that we still can maintain our sharp powers and to engage with the international world.
Thank you. What will be your suggestion, Marcin?
Indeed, sharp power can be the way to go. I think that Taiwan has really benefited from the positive attention in terms of soft power and having people finally able to identify it on the map after its contributions to the global public health regime during its successful COVID-19 response, which also included provision of sorely needed personal protective equipment to countries around the world. But now in the sharp power dimension, it's really important to put resources behind these narratives. So I believe that doubling down on approaches that have already proven successful, for example, provision of technical assistance or coordination of Taiwan's international outreach with other initiatives, such as the European Union's Global Gateway Initiative, can be a very good way for Taiwan to express its status as a reliable partner, also in more tangible terms.
So we understand that, Professor, you have been educating the students from National Chengchi University. You have trained a lot of professional diplomats. For these young students, what does the future hold for them if they would like to pursue a career as a diplomat? What will be your suggestions for them?
For the college levels, I mean, probably 1/10 they want to go to the public sectors or the diplomatic sectors. A lot of students, they want to go different kind of field. They go to business, they go to media, some people doing the research. So like what I say, our department is not only focusing on diplomacy or international relations. We try to teach students more interdisciplinary knowledge. We teach them international relations theories, but we're also teaching them more like international trade, business, IPE. We also bring more we call non-traditional security issues to them, climate, terrorist, these kind of issues. We also teach them methodologies like statistics, and right now we try to bring more AI topics for the students. So I think students in our departments, they learn a lot of different projects and also ideas and also topics. After they graduate, they can decide whether they want to stay on we call the IR field for their graduate studies, or they want to switch their focus to like business, to education or medias. So our department is very flexible. We are not, like past.
But I know like now we just want to again think outside of the box. You don't have to become a professional diplomat to be representing Taiwan, right? So everybody can be a diplomat because Taiwan, indeed, we are a force for good, and we hope that we can continue to work with like-minded partners in the world to further advance freedom and democracy. Thank you once again for joining us on the show today, and thank you once again for your insights. So this has been Taiwan Talks. If you like our show, please search for us on YouTube and hit subscribe to our channel. Thank you, stay safe, and see you next time.